Welcome to the podcast. This is Reflections of a CEO, and we haven't done a podcast for probably 4 months now. It's probably the last one. Had a little break in between, and in thinking how to come back with an episode, decided to do something a bit different moving forward. And what we're going to do is, if you're watching by video, you'll see this beautiful person right next to me. If you're listening by audio, who I'm referring to right now is Sasha, my girlfriend. She's sitting next to me. We thought we would change up the format a little bit moving forward, which was to do them a bit longer. So each episode will be about 45 minutes now, something like that. And it's going to be a bit of a Q&A between me and Sasha. Sasha knows me very well. We've been together for a few years now. And, you know, when I was kind of just talking by myself on the podcast, I was just saying what was top of mind, and that was the purpose of it. But we thought it would be better if Sasha was here to ask a few questions and pull out some information and go a bit deeper than I might go on my own. And that's why we also increased the length. And stay tuned as well. I'll actually be flipping it on her next week, or for the next podcast rather, where I'm actually be interviewing her about what it's like to date an entrepreneur. So she gets that question a lot, and we thought it would be a fun little episode to do. But for this one, since we haven't done a podcast in 4-5 months, or however long it is, and I was really doing a few a week, you were really, if you had followed along on the podcast, you got essentially daily updates on the business, my company, my life, what I was going through, and now there's a gap of 4 to 5 months. And it's a lot to fill in. Can't fill in everything on one episode, but you know, when I was thinking about how should I approach this, and one thing that came to mind was I was out for drinks with someone from my team and their significant other. What was it? Maybe like 3-4 days ago, and she asked me a question. Her name is Laura, and she asked me a question, which was, what are your biggest accomplishments of 2018? And I thought it was a really good question, and it really made me think. And I thought that might be a great way just to start off this podcast, because I'm going to really focus on even over the last 4 to 5 months, so I can kind of fill in that gap. But I thought that was a good framework for this podcast and filling it in. So on the business end, as far as my biggest accomplishments of 2018, there's a few things that really come to mind. One is that we did a bit of restructuring. So this is new, something that I don't believe I talked about on any of the last podcasts, because it's really been over the last 3 to 4 months. We did some restructuring such that someone from the team named Cody, he joined us a bit over a year ago. He started as a product manager, and then he moved up to head of the digital studio, and now, as of a couple months ago, we named him president. So Cody, amazing guy, he is now president of Jacked. And the reason why that is very important is, well, there's a couple things. One is that he is now going to be responsible for the day-to-day operations of the business, responsible for the P&L, responsible kind of for everything. He's taking over a lot of my day-to-day responsibilities, so that I can step away and really focus on Pulpo Group. And Pulpo Group is a holding company that I'm forming, which will own Jacked and will own other businesses that we start or invest in, or other things I do. And so I'm, it's been 6.5, 7 years now of running Jacked. I'm still involved in Jacked. I'm not disappearing. I'm still staying as CEO, but my role has changed significantly. I'll be spending probably 20, 30 hours a week and then on Jacked still. And slowly it will decrease even more. And more of my time is being spent on Pulpo Group. And so Jacked will be owned, or is owned, by me still and Pulpo Group. And I'm really excited for this. This has been something that I've wanted to do since day one. It was always my intention to build Jacked and then start other businesses. I just thought there would always be other software businesses, because Jacked, for those of you that don't know, we build digital products for companies. And so I really thought we'd have some sort of software company, and that was really my intention, was work with a bunch of different industries and businesses and learn what I like and what I don't like, and then spin out different businesses. But a funny thing happened over the last 6-7 years is that Jack serves its purpose of helping me figure out other businesses to start. They just happen to not be software related. So the thesis behind Pulpo Group is that I want to create other businesses that are cash flow generating businesses that are really more of the unsexy kind, agencies, service businesses that not often people think are the most exciting, but to me they're very exciting because they spit off cash, and that cash allows you to do other things. So over the last 6-7 years was very focused on Jack, building that up. I did try at times to kind of do some other things, but every time that happened, Jack kind of declined, and without Jack being in a healthy place and spitting off cash, I can't do any of the Pulpo Group stuff and the other stuff I want to do around real estate, which is my other real interest over the next few years, is to take the cash from Jack, put it in other businesses, and also real estate. But to bring this back to the president, Cody, I've been trying to build a core management team for years now, unsuccessfully. So I've tried things, I've brought in people. At one point, even brought in a partner, didn't work out, brought in some other people, and to cut a long story short, it's been about, I don't know, what would you say, 3 years of me trying this?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, I've been trying this for a while to build up this management team, and kind of just, found Cody, great guy, and saw a lot of potential in him. And so, it wasn't my plan this year, was not to find the president and move on. Like, I actually kind of gave up on finding someone who could really help run the day-to-day, because I tried it a couple times and it didn't work. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep running this, and I don't know. And then just saw a lot of potential in him, and it just felt like it was time to switch things up a bit. And there's a lot of strengths that I saw in Cody that I don't have that are great for the business. And so it just worked out really well. And so Cody has been president for the last couple months. We publicly announced it maybe a few weeks ago, but behind the scenes we've been working on this for months. And so that's one of my biggest accomplishments is finding someone and bringing them, them coming through. And it works out timing wise, right? He was ready at that point in his life to take on more responsibility in this challenge. We've talked to each other. He's like, hey, if you found me like 5 years from now, I don't know if I would be right for this, because you'd be 5 years older, you have different priorities. But it just works out sometimes where you find the right person at the right time, and then it just starts clicking. So that's been going on for the last couple months. So I'm very happy about that. So that's an accomplishment. And with that, another accomplishment that is related, but I think is really important, was for me personally, is to not be scared to say what is important to me, what I value, the type of people I want around me, and just being unapologetic of removing anyone that is not like that in my life, and then bringing the other people closer. That's why Cody now is he's one of those guys that's like, hey, we really value the same thing. Same with Lauren, who maybe you've heard me talk about. She's head of people and operations. They kind of form, us three kind of form the executive team, and we're very, very aligned. And there's no ego, which is really important to me. We all play for the team, and the team being Jacked. What I love is we all put the company first. That's not to say we all suffer, right? But like, we will make a choice, all three of us, that will benefit the company, even though it may suck a little bit for us personally, because we're all playing the long-term game of where the company's going, and we all believe that the company, should we execute well, it will take care of all of us long-term, and that's really nice to have. But yeah, just removing influences that were just toxic and emotionally hostage-taking was really drowning me, and so removing those, and then making sure people at the company as well were like that. I'm mainly talking about company stuff here, but it's also in my personal life, kind of just removing that stuff. So anyways, that was another important one. Another accomplishment is that Sasha and I, we started splitting our time between Miami and New York. So this one, I've been wanting to do this for years. So I grew up in San Diego. For those of you that don't know, I was there until I was 17 before I moved to New York. Moved to New York when I was 17. I'm 29 now, so I've been here 12 years. And I absolutely love New York, right? And I actually never even felt like I fit in San Diego. But a funny thing happened when I left San Diego. I didn't miss San Diego, but I missed the weather and the sun and that, and it really has progressively, gotten to me, so to speak, more and more over the last few years, and so I've been traveling back and forth to Miami actually, few times a year just to get the sun. It's much closer than going back to San Diego, a couple hours versus 6. So same time zone, super quick flight, takes a couple hours and back. And this year with just some of the changes that I had, it was really after a conversation with my coach Elizabeth when she asked me at one point, like, what do you want to do? And design. And we started talking about designing the life that I want. And that's why it was like, all right, I'm gonna offer this thing to Cody. Let's make it happen. I'm gonna start splitting my time and not being scared to do it and actually put myself first. So I've only started doing this, but really actually putting myself first. For so many years, I put the business first, my emotional health, mental health, physical health, everything just was a second-class citizen compared to the business, and I suffered a lot. And this year I'm finally starting to put myself first, and actually by expressing what I want, then actually, funny enough, great things are happening, right? Cody comes into president, Lauren steps up more, I'm able to split time in Miami, and go back and forth. I was really worried about that, like, oh, how am I I can't not be in New York. I felt tied to New York. It was interesting, I created the business so that I would have freedom to do whatever I want, and along the way I lost sight of that, and I actually became the one person who had the least amount of freedom in the company. Never left, holidays, weekends, everything, and don't get me wrong, I love working, but I also, it kind of sucked because I felt like I had to as well, because I need to be building the business and saving the business from a downturn or whatever it is, and now with some good people around, I'm able to now split time between Miami and New York. So in October we got a 6-month lease for a place in Miami. For those of you in video, we're in New York right now. You probably can't see, but we're in New York. We're going to Miami, back to Miami tomorrow though. But we wanted to test it out. We're like, what would it be like to split time? And we've been doing that for the last couple months, and each month we spend a little bit more time in Miami, and it's been great. I don't know, how am I there? What changes have you seen in me since, when I'm actually in Miami?
I mean, I think your overall temperament, your overall personality, you're lighter. Not to say you're not stressed, but I think that you handle and manage your stress better. You're able to take little breaks during the day if you want, even for 20 minutes to go upstairs and get some sun. You can work outside. You have the ocean breeze coming in. It's just overall a more tranquil situation, which I can see from your skin to your facial expressions. You're just happier, it seems.
Yeah, I'd say overall my level of happiness when I'm there is much higher. I want to be careful on how I say that. It's not that it's much higher. I mean, I love being here. I am a happy person in general. Just the environment. It's just, I was ready. I was telling my coach, and I even told Sasha, when we first started going to Miami, it still felt like I was vacationing there and going there, and even though we had an apartment there, it didn't feel like home. And that was the first time. The second time, and the third time we went, I didn't want to leave. Actually, I didn't want to come back to New York, and a really interesting thing happened, and this is how I think I knew. So I was anytime you land in JFK or LaGuardia or whatever it is, right? You drive into the city of New York, and you start seeing all the buildings, and then you get into the city and there's buildings everywhere, and there's just a feeling that I can't describe it. If you live in New York and you've ever left and you come back, or you visited New York, you might know what I'm talking about. This feeling of, wow, like this energy, and you just like, yeah, you just love to be there. And I've literally had that every single time I've left and come back to New York for 12 straight years. Until this last time. It was the first time I didn't feel anything, and I was actually not excited to be back in the city. And it was at that moment that I was kind of like, wow, something's different, and I think I'm ready. I'm ready to let go of New York being my primary residence, which is kind of crazy to say. So we actually initially started to be, we were going to keep New York and then have a place in Miami and go back and forth. And Miami was never going to be like the permanent. You know, we kind of had thought about it, but then through doing this, I'm like, actually, I'm going to flip it, and Miami will actually be our permanent residence, and New York will be where we come 10, 12 days a month. You know, the Jack office, the main one, is here. The business is here. A lot of things are here, but I don't need to be here. I'm designing a life where I don't need to be here 30 days out of the month, and I'll be here 10, 12 days, or maybe I'll be here a month and then in Florida 2 months or whatever it is. But we're actually going to be moving down to Miami full time. We have a few months left on the lease here, and we're trying to find someone to take it over so that we can actually just leave. We plan to not have an apartment in New York, actually. So we're actually uprooting, leaving, and when I come to New York, I'll either stay with friends or have an Airbnb or whatever it is, but we're actually going to be moving our entire life there. So that's a big change, and one that I'm really excited for, but I don't think I'm 100% ready to leave New York completely, and that's why it's really nice that I'll be here. You know, the business is here, I'll be here 10, 12 days a month, whatever it is. So I'm still in New York. I think I'll always have some sort of tie to New York, I think. But primarily we'll be in Florida. So we're gonna try that, really make the move, and see how that goes. So that was another accomplishment. Those are, you know, I think those are the biggest ones. Do you think I'm missing any? You know me really well. Is there anything that I'm missing that's happened over the last 3 or 4 months that you think is important for people to understand or know, or even hard things I went through, or, you know, good things? Oh, I do have one. I finally closed the loop on the lawsuit.
Oh yeah.
So I can't talk about it too much, but I was in a lawsuit, and that was dragged on for the last like three or so years, and it concluded. So that was a big emotional weight off of me to kind of be done with that. It really drained me for many years. So that was also another big accomplishment that I just thought of. What else? Is there anything else that you think has happened over the last 3 to 4 months that would be helpful for people to know?
I don't know about 3 to 4 months, but this year, like you said, with Pulpo Group, you're starting other businesses. I think that opening up the recruiting business and also back office as a service was pretty big. Yeah, so the recruiting thing that she's alluding to is, I forgot, so much has happened this year, is I started a spin-off with my mom, and for those of you that don't know, there was actually a period of time where I didn't speak to my mom for 2 to 3 years, and it was due to, there was a lot of factors in it, and I could do a whole podcast on just that, but let's just say we didn't see eye to eye on things, and for a couple years we didn't speak, and this year we actually started doing business together, and she was working somewhere. So she's been in the recruiting business for 20 something years now, and she's great at it. And she was working, she used to have her own business with her mom, then she worked full-time places, and then she left, kind of convinced her to jump off and start some recruiting stuff with me. And long story short, something that I'm really proud of is that she made more money in a couple months working with me, more money than she was going to make at an entire year at the place that she was full-time. So that was a really proud moment for me that I was able to help with that, and that I could work with my mom. So that happened. That was a big moment for me. You know, not talking to her for years,
and then doing something, not only doing something with her, but also then financially. And it was, the money is the nice part of it, but like it's cool that you can help your parents make more than they would on their own. It's nice. So so that's really cool because obviously like she raised me and then whatever. Anyways, so that's cool. Another thing she mentioned was back office as a service. I think before jumping into what that is over the last year, and this is something I haven't really talked about before, is over the last year, I've just been helping people for free, just because I like it, helping them start businesses. Like one of my friends, he became my friend, he's my barber. I helped him start his own business, helped my other friend who's a fitness and nutrition coach start his own business. He was actually in med school about to become a doctor, and then I wasn't trying to convince him not to, but I guess through just being around me and me talking about business and stuff, he ended up starting his business, and they'll both do very well this year. I've helped a couple other agencies and service businesses, and as I was doing this, some of these people that I was helping, like, hey, you should really teach a class on this, or you should talk to more people and whatever. And I wasn't out to like help them start businesses. I was just around them talking. It's just what I talk about. It's all I think about. I'm like, oh, you could do this or that. What, have you thought about this or whatever? And then they start coming back, and I give them more and more, not advice, but just tips and tricks and learnings and whatever. And I found myself wanting to do that more. And then for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, like I'm always getting introduced to new people. But this year, I got introduced to a lot of people that wanted to start businesses or had businesses and wanted to grow them. And I started spending more and more time for free. And it was really interesting because I started realizing, I did an audit. I do this every so often, which I think is a great idea to do, is doing an audit of your time and where you're spending it. So when I go through, I constantly am looking at my time. Where am I spending it? Where am I happy? Where am I not? And then adjusting as needed, removing the things that don't make me happy, adding more things that make me happy. And through one of these audits that I did, is I realized I was spending a lot of time helping other people's businesses. And I never, I was very hesitant to think more of that. I don't really like people, I was very hesitant to be a coach, or even though I pay for one myself, but being a coach, because I don't want, there's so many people out there that are teaching things that they don't actually know and are just essentially scamming or lying to people. And I never wanted to be seen as that. But it was this year when after I saw about a year's worth of data, so to speak, of like, hey, the things I'm telling people are actually working, and it's working because they're things that I've done myself, that I was like, oh, there's some value here. And you know what? Hey, I've been in business for 7 years, but I've really been doing business since I was 15. So I have almost 15 years experience. I definitely don't know everything, but I do have some experience. And if I share that experience with people, it could help them grow their businesses. So anyways, I was like, all right, I'm spending a lot of time here, and there's something here, and I had to get over myself of feeling like a fraud a little bit. It's like, no, I've actually built up a business. Jack will do $4 million this year with a 20-25% profit. Like, it's a real business. We've been profitable for 7 years. I've dealt with, sales, marketing, operations, HR, everything. Every part of the business I've touched. I know it very well up to this point. And so there's some things I can share. And so, but anyways, the really important point is, when I was doing Jacked, before I started Jacked, I didn't intend to start an agency like this, actually. I was trying to, even before then, try to figure out a software business to start. And I started just seeing where I was spending my time, and it happened to be helping other people's businesses. But mainly on the digital product side and design and development side and stuff like that. And so anyways, I took what I was doing for free and what I just was doing literally every single day and turned it into a business, which was Jacked, which was we help people design and build digital products, right? And so that same philosophy is what I'm taking now and applying it to something new I started, which was, hey, I'm just spending a lot of my time on here. What I'm good at is monetizing things and creating business models around things that work. That's what I did with Jacked. I didn't know what an agency was, or so I just kind of created that model. It's now called an agency. I wouldn't even call it that before, but people like to bucket things. But anyways, I'm wrapping a business model around helping other people that I feel good about. So the first step is I created something called servicebasedbusinesses.com, and it's a private Slack community where I am working one-on-one with people that run agencies or other service-based businesses that are between 0 to 1 million and helping them get to 1 million. And not just helping them get to 1 million by the typical, hey, I have the Facebook ad strategy that's going to get you your customers, blah, blah. No. Like, the real way that you have to build a business, if you want to build it to 7 figures and more than 7 figures, there's so many things you have to get right. And I've been through all of them, right? You have to get the financial engineering right. You need to get the HR right. You need to get the hiring right, the operations, the back office, the marketing, the sales, the bit. There's so many things you have to get right? Understanding cash flow, etc. And so that's what I want to give that to people. And so I created this private Slack group where it's $100 a month, $99 a month, so super cheap. I wanted it to be, enough where, it wasn't really a blocking for people. I was once in a part where I was doing 0 to 1 million, and you don't have a lot of disposable income. You're trying to throw all the money back in the business. So I try to keep it cheap. I was like, I would pay $100 if I had access to someone like me, which is, over the course of a year, $1,200. But I didn't want to do it for free because in general, I've just found people don't value free stuff. And also I was like $100 a month, extrapolating it for myself. If I get 100 people in the group, it turns into 10,000 a month. And hey, that's a nice little business here. It's nothing crazy. Most of that money I'm throwing back in to creating materials, videos, this kind of stuff, right? I'm not actually making, or don't actually plan on really making a profit out of that business specifically. I care more about helping all these people. I make my money from Jack right now, and we'll make it from other businesses. But here's where it gets cool to me. There's a couple things. With the service-based businesses group, right? I'm learning a ton actually about what else business owners need. And so I'm essentially creating a funnel for a couple things. One is, say I get 100 people, 200, 500 people in this community and I'm helping them, right? I'm adding value, and that's amazing in and of itself. We had one guy who, in his first month, some tips I gave him helped him make an extra $10,000, right? So that's 100x ROI. So, that alone is super exciting to me that someone made $10,000 in their first month, through the group. But where it gets more interesting is that later on, I want to actually build in Popal Group a bunch of agencies and services that actually serve other agencies. I think it's a very underserved market. If you look at the tech sphere, there's tech incubators, there's everyone is helping tech companies or other businesses. No one's serving agencies or service businesses, right? And so I want to create a bunch of different businesses like the back office as a service, which can help these businesses grow easier, right? It's very hard when you're going from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2 million to have all the full-time people that you actually need, and so it can slow you down. And I want to essentially package that up because we figured that out at Jacked. We're extrapolating it, packaging it up, and offering it to people. So that's why we had the recruiting business. That's why we're doing back office as a service. Which will be, my goal with these is to be better than you could do on your own, but cheaper than you could do and faster, right? So our back office team, right, is composed of multiple people. There's no way when you're running a $1 million business that you can hire all the people that I have, but you need all those things, right? And so you're not gonna find one person who can do all of it. So what I wanna do is say, hey, cool, I've built this up. Let me just give it to you for $5,000, $10,000 a month. So cheaper than you could get if you actually had to hire these people.